This week in game news, Pokemon Go was banned in Iran, No Man's Sky was released and it's a little different from what everybody was expecting, the campaign for Titanfall 2 is projected to be about 8 hours long, Brian Lee O'Malley wants to see the Scott Pilgrim video game re-released, official Oculus Rift support for Minecraft is coming next week, Microsoft has acquired interactive streaming service Beam, the Florence and the Machine version of Stand By Me for Final Fantasy XV is finally out, and I think I found my wedding song, It's Amazing. This is the Blackman and Robin Game News Update. Also, we have this awesome piece of Gravity Rush fan art by Vivian Law. You can check out more of her stuff at artbyvivi on Instagram or at vivianlawart.tumblr.com. We got some interesting game hardware news this week, specifically regarding the Tobii iX and the upcoming Deus Ex Mankind Divided. The iX is a peripheral that's a bit like Kinect, but specifically for tracking eye movement. Now the device will be compatible with the upcoming Deus Ex and will allow PC players to aim where they're looking. You can also have the camera in-game pan in the direction you glance, and there are also a couple of other neat features. Now if you purchase an iX, you'll get Deus Ex Mankind Divided bundled in. Now personally, I really love the concept, though I'm kind of on the fence about getting my hands on one. Thus far, I've heard that the iX has a few issues with precision, but otherwise works well. I do hope that this sort of technology helps gamers with disabilities. Tobii, the company behind iX, does have a long history creating eye-tracking systems for people with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, spinal injuries, and other disabilities resulting in paralysis. However iX support turns out for Deus Ex, it is at least thematically fitting. The iX Deus Ex bundle is available for $139 plus shipping. In other game hardware news, we have a bit of interesting PlayStation Vita information from last week. However, this largely flew under everybody's radar, so we're talking about it today. The PlayStation Vita has been hacked all the way open. Hacking group Team Molecule has created a new exploit, the Henkaku hack, that allows you to run emulators and other homebrew software on your Vita. According to the developers of Henkaku, it cannot be used for piracy. If you're trying to play Vita games without paying for them, you're gonna have to look somewhere else. What's special about Henkaku is that you have to visit a website for your Vita in order to get the hack running. There's no fancy hardware modifications or anything else necessary, it's super simple. The main thing about this hack, however, is that when you reboot your Vita, you'll have to go back to the website in order to get it to run again. Additionally, you have to be running the 3.60 firmware for this to work. Anything higher is incompatible. For retro gamers, we have some good news. Pac-Man Championship Edition 2 now has a release date of September 13, 2016. The sequel to Pac-Man Championship Edition, it looks pretty wild. It brings boss battles, an adventure mode, and a bunch of other features. I played the original game and have to say that it's a fantastic spin on a classic. It throws some new mechanics into the game. You can play against more than 4 enemies at a time, for instance, and it's well worth checking out if you're looking for a Pac-Man game that does something new. Now Championship Edition 2 is going to be released on the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and Windows. So, we've been away for a week, and in that time, Niantic has managed to upset the Pokemon Go player base in a number of ways we didn't imagine were possible. To start with, the game received its first major update since launch. Now this update took away the ability to track Pokemon near you. Bear in mind, however, that this feature had been broken a while back, and the developers claim to be in the process of fixing it. This week, in fact, they released a new version of the tracking system which adds, grass? Yeah, so if you live in the country, there's a new tab that says Pokemon Sightings, and you'll see grass. Now, if you live somewhere like, San Francisco, you'll see a Pokemon sighting near a nearby landmark. Seeing as I live in the middle of nowhere, I've been seeing grass in the nearby tab. I suppose it's better than nothing? Anyway, the reason the removal of the tracking initially caused so much anger was because the website Pokevision, a service that allowed users to search for Pokemon based on their location, was shut down. A few days before the website shut down, in an interview with Forbes, Niantic CEO John Hank said that he considered such services to be cheating, and he wanted Pokevision and similar sites gone. Yang Liu, creator of Pokevision, said that if Niantic requested it, he'd be happy to comply with shutting down the site. It seems obvious what happened next. Now, as you can guess, the shutdown of Pokevision led to outrage from the player base. After all, Pokevision fixed a feature that was broken for many players, and it really improved the game for players in rural and suburban areas, where Pokemon spawns are significantly less common than in urban areas. What's interesting is that much of the outpouring of vitriol came in the direction of Niantic instead of the Pokevision app. Why is that? Because Pokevision communicated what they were doing and why with a single simple tweet. Meanwhile at Niantic, there was little communication about the updates. While Niantic did eventually issue a statement, it was too little, too late. The damage was done, and they lost the trust of many players. Many players see Niantic as trying to milk money from players with these updates, as though they're trying to convince players to purchase such items as lures and incense to draw Pokemon to their locations, rather than letting players run out and hunt for Pokemon as, was advertised, and is supposedly the dream of the game. Now, Pokemon Go also received an unannounced spike in difficulty alongside the removal of the broken tracking, which further fueled these rumors. Pokemon were for a while harder to catch. They tended to swat away Pokeballs and break out of balls at a much higher rate than before. As somebody who lives in Nowheresville, Connecticut, this was a problem. Pokestops aren't tremendously common in my area, and Pokemon don't spawn at a very high rate, so when a Rattata costs me 4 balls and then runs away, I'm frustrated because I'm suddenly out of Pokeballs and don't want to drop real-world money for imaginary items. It certainly felt like a conspiracy to push players to spend money in the game, but according to a tweet from Niantic, that was too little too late, just like everything else they've done. It was due to some sort of glitch that has since been fixed. The game has a number of other issues as well. It was released in South America this week, and a number of players have been reporting problems with GPS spoofers, specifically people who are feeding cell phones false location data in order to cheat up the game. So suppose you live in China and you want to play Pokemon Go. If you fake your location and say that you're in Brazil, you can take over gyms and catch Pokemon much more quickly than players who are out actually playing the game. Now, as you may guess, this has ruined the game for a number of players. What's the point in honestly catching and leveling up Pokemon if it feels like you don't have a shot at taking on the gyms? What's the point of running out and trying to find a rare Pokemon that could be anywhere in the tri-state area with a semi-broken tracking system, when a spoofer might come along and snatch it up before you have the chance to actually get it yourself? In spite of the issues, the game still has a lot of dedicated fans making cool stuff, such as this video titled How Pokemon Go Spawns Its Commons, created by YouTuber Nixilus. Thank you, Nixilus, for allowing us to share this on our show this week. If you have any cool Pokemon Go fan videos or art or what have you, send it to us and we'd be happy to share it. Personally, I'm still a fan of the game, but I really want to see the issues fixed, and I want to see Niantic better communicating with its fans. If you, as a developer, are going to make a change that affects the player base in a significant way, you need to communicate that change ahead of time. I'm not as mad with Niantic as some of the players are. I understand that they're very understaffed and were unprepared for the massive success of Pokemon Go. I'm just hoping that they can get their act together for the sake of the game's future. Pokemon Go might not have so much of an immediate future in Iran. This week, the game was banned in that country. According to Abul Hassan Firuzabadi, head of Iran's Supreme Council of Virtual Space, any game that wants to operate nationwide in Iran needs to obtain permission from the Ministry of Culture and Islamic Guidance, and the Pokemon Go app has not yet requested such permission. Iranian cartoonist Mana Nayastani drew this picture of Pikachu on the run from Iran's moralizing authorities. Supposedly, the reason for the game's ban is over security concerns. That said, a fatwa, or religious ban, is currently standing regarding the Pokemon Go trading card game, so it wouldn't be surprising if that played a part in this new ban. Sick of hearing about Pokemon Go? Good, because I'm sick of talking about it. But there is more Pokemon-related news. This time, however, it's about Pokemon Uranium, which is a Pokemon fan game that was released this week for Windows. It sort of resembles a really great GBA game. Now, Pokemon Uranium has been in development for over 9 years, and apparently it's fantastic and features over 150 new Pokemon, some of which are cooler than official Pokemon. I have not tried it, but personally I'm a little surprised that the game's still available to download at the time of producing this episode. Typically, when a fan game gets this popular and it's this high quality, Nintendo's lawyers jump out from the tall grass foaming at the mouth. That hasn't happened yet. Pokemon Uranium is set to be released on OS X at some unspecified date in the future. In game releases this week, No Man's Sky has captured the world's attention, and understandably so. This game was hyped to the moon and back, and while I've not had the chance to play it quite yet, I have heard a lot about it. In case you somehow haven't heard of No Man's Sky, what you should know is that it's a sci-fi exploration game set in a massive, simulated, procedurally generated universe. Each planet in the game is full of creatures and elements to mine, and dead civilizations to document. There was a little confusion about the game. Apparently, while it is a single-player game, your actions have an effect on the game's universe at large. So let's say that you name a planet, and then another player manages to find and visit that same planet while you're there, you're not going to see that player. That's what happened to a pair of streamers this week. They visited a planet simultaneously, and for one streamer it was daytime, while for another it was nighttime. So these players weren't able to see each other in spite of having gone to the same place at the same time. So while the game does have central servers, the instance of the game that's running on your machine is yours alone. Thus far, the game's gotten great response from both players and critics. From what I've been hearing, it's not like EVE or Star Citizen or Elite. While there is some space combat and training, the game's a lot more exploratory in nature. No Man's Sky is the Pokemon Snap of space adventure games. It's surprisingly serenely paced. Now, personally, I can't help but be reminded of Dejabon's Elegy for a Dead World whenever I see the game. Elegy is this platformer in which you visit alien worlds which were formerly home to civilizations. You write poetry based on what you think happened to those civilizations. You can upload this poetry to the game's servers and share it with other players, so they could walk through a world that, in a way, became your world. While the PS4 version of No Man's Sky works fine, I must note, the PC version of the game has massive issues at the time of this episode's production. Users with relatively high-end systems are getting poor performance. They're also suffering frame rate drops, assorted crashes, the works. Right now, the game has a mostly negative user rating on Steam. Hopefully, the developers manage to fix it soon before it becomes this year's Arkham Knight. Arkham Knight, by the way, still isn't completely fixed, but we're done with that controversy for now. Another game that's been released on Windows and PS4 this week is Blade Ballet. This one actually does have multiplayer. It's a sort of funny multiplayer arena game in which everybody has a cute spinning robot. Remember Beyblade? Well, it's like that, except you actually control your unit. You spin around and try to hit the opponent robots with your sword. I received a review copy of the game from its developers, and I tried playing prior to release, but unfortunately I could never find anybody else online. That said, I was playing prior to release. Right now, it seems like the game has a lot more fans as it's gotten both good critical reception and a great response from players on Steam. Besides online play, it's also enjoyable locally, so if you've got the controllers and the friends, have them over for some Blade Ballet. The game Road to Valhalla was released on Steam for Windows last week, but because we weren't here, we are talking about it today. Now, the game's a little bit Marble Madness, a little bit rhythm game, a little bit racing, and a whole lot of crazy. It's a puzzler in which you roll around and try not to die. Sounds simple, right? Well, it is a simple premise, but reportedly, the game's crazy hard. Now, I haven't tried it yet, but I've heard very good things about it. Check out Road to Valhalla if you're looking for something challenging. If you're looking for a more traditional platformer, you might want to check out Copy Kitty, which came to Steam Early Access this week for Windows. It's a platformer about a cat named Boki, whose uncle sent a combat training simulator as a gift. Now that's a weird gift, but Boki's special skill is to copy the ability of any enemy she comes across. It's like Kirby with less gluttony. This game's gotten great reception from the players thus far on Steam. Even though it's an early access title, it's apparently extremely polished. Check out CopyKitty if you need some awesome platforming action in your life. And now for a brief word from our sponsor.
Are you being denied credit or paying high interest rates? Your credit score could be the problem. You need Credit Repair Pros, where we work directly with the credit bureaus and your creditors to challenge inaccurate information on your credit report to help you transform your credit score into the one you need to get the things you want, like a new car, a new home, even a new job. Call Credit Repair Pros to speak with a credit expert and find out how we'll work to improve your credit by helping remove inaccurate items from your credit reports. For over 15 years, we've helped thousands resolve their credit issues, and we've helped remove over 500,000 negative items, like charge-offs, late payments, foreclosures, even bankruptcies. So don't wait. Call Credit Repair Pros today and start rebuilding your future. Credit Repair Pros, where great credit begins. Call now for your free credit consultation. Credit experts are standing by.
Call 1-800-518-1593. That's 1-800-518-1593.
This is Stage of Development Chicago. This is a project to create at least 4 short documentary films about Chicago indie game makers.
In crowdfunding news this week, Stage of Development has returned to Kickstarter. You may remember Stage of Development. It was on Kickstarter a while back, but didn't quite make it the first time. Still, the documentary's director, Russ Pitts, was determined to make it happen. So much so that he's been working on this series of documentaries out of pocket. Thus far, he's produced a pilot documentary on Spry Fox. The reason for the new Kickstarter is so that he can afford to produce at least 4 more of those on other developers. Having watched the documentary on Spry Fox, I have to say that I'm impressed. It's a cool, relatively brief, but surprisingly in-depth and well-polished documentary about the developers of AlphaBear. If you'd like to support this sort of video game documentary, check out Stage of Development, Indie City Edition, on Kickstarter. There, you can also watch the documentary on Spry Fox for free. Stage of Development is set to be released November 2016. The trailer for the upcoming Alice VR caught our eye this week. Alice VR is an upcoming virtual reality sci-fi adventure in which you've made an emergency landing on an alien planet. A planet whose inhabitants have mysteriously disappeared. Now, the game boasts puzzles and, as you may guess from its title, a story inspired by Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. It's set to be released October 2016 for the HTC Vive, Oculus Rift, and Razer's OS VR. Is this the season for Norse-themed video games? We got a trailer this week for the upcoming Northgard, a strategy game currently in development by Shiro Games. In Northgard, you take control of a Viking clan as you settle a new continent and struggle for survival. It's a strategy game, and it seems to draw on some elements of Norse mythology. This isn't the only indie game with Vikings that's popped up recently. A few months back, the second game in the Banner Saga series was released. It's fantastic. And a couple weeks ago, The Great Whale Road hit early access on Steam. While Banner Saga is a rather fantastical take on Norse myth, and The Great Whale Road is a serious historical game, it seems that Northgard kind of falls somewhere in between. I'm looking forward to seeing how it turns out. Northgard is set to be released later this year for Windows. Maybe mass surveillance is more your thing. If so, you might want to check out the latest trailer for Orwell. It's a game in which you sort through people's information, social media postings, and other such things as part of a government that keeps a close eye on its citizens. The game is set to be released later this year. Now personally, I really like the concept, even though I'm not going to say much more about it until I see the execution. Still, it's not too often that you see games about conducting investigations in this style. It's neat to see it at play here. It's also interesting to see games about mass surveillance in general. It's very topical, all things considered. A fear that's in the back of a lot of people's minds is that of surveillance. The idea that somebody, somewhere, in a government, is watching you. That at any moment, your life can be turned upside down thanks to information that a government has about you. Games like this are living proof that video games can not only be relevant culturally when they're big and popular, but that they can also be a medium for talking about issues in ways that you just can't address in other mediums. Sure, it's one thing to read about mass surveillance, but to actually do it yourself, you either need to be playing a video game or working for the government. Finally, we have a new trailer for the upcoming Endless Space 2, which is set to hit Steam Early Access sometime this summer. Hopefully it comes out soon, because we're running out of summer.
They have always been first, the Sophons. First to split atoms, mine asteroids, and capture the energy of the sun. First, too, to crash their test rockets, trigger artificial earthquakes, and accidentally blow up their moon. Their great power has given them great irresponsibility. But through it, now, they're the first to create perfection. Me.
Well, that's it for this week's game news. For all the latest game news, reviews, previews, and interviews, be sure to follow at Blackman and Robin on Twitter and Instagram. Follow me at Jordan_Cameron for my own views.